Before we get swept away into the world of UV unwrapping, I want to show you that it's possible to add color to any model without actually unwrapping it. Let's go ahead and create the monkey head. So this is Suzanne, the monkey head, Blender's mascot, and she's going to be our test subject for adding color without UVs. Now you can do this in both Blender Render and Cycles Render. It's mostly a preference, but I do want to point out that if you do it in Blender Render, you're going to see the color all the time. It's always going to be on the monkey. So it doesn't matter which mode you're in, solid, texture, material, you'll always see the color. So I prefer to go in Cycles Render. Another reason why I choose Cycles is because I find it's more compatible with Unity. I don't know if that's absolutely true because I haven't fully tested it, but anytime I export my models and then import them into Unity, I always use Cycles Render, and I've never had any problems with that. So I'm going to recommend Cycles Render for this. So let's go ahead and jump into the Materials tab, this icon over here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new material. Keep an eye on this list here. If you have a lot of materials, you're going to want to reuse as many materials as possible to save on, having all that extra stuff going on behind the scenes. You can always be conservative and make your game run more efficiently by just streamlining things like this. I'm going to go ahead and rename this brown and choose brown from the color picker. That looks like a good monkey brown to me. You won't see any color on Suzanne until you change this to the material in viewport shading. Now you can see this beautiful monkey brown color. Now I went with brown first because I wanted to fill in the entire model with brown. I just didn't want to have to bother trying to select inside all these little crevices and stuff. So I picked the color that was going to fill in pretty much most of what we're painting first. You'll notice that there's no longer an Add New Material button. Now we actually have to click on the plus sign to add a new material slot. Now that the slot is added and I have it selected, I can click to add a new material. And repeat. I'm going to go ahead and create all my materials first, and then we'll go and assign them. So I'm going to need white for the eyes. I'm going to need black, I guess, for the pupils. And we'll probably color the mouth, which will be like a pink color, I guess. I'll take a moment and one by one associate these colors with the color picker. So I don't want to have bright white. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, just a tiny bit. Black, same thing. I don't want to be solid black. I'm going to come up a little bit from black. And pink, I want to be a nice bright pink. Alright, all my colors are basically configured and you can see them all on this list. I just want to point out, if I were to add another material to this list right now, let's say I add another material, and just for example, let's say I had forgotten or didn't realize that I had already created a brown, or any color that's already been created, and I name this brown. Watch what happens to the previous brown. It renamed it. Now I only did that to demonstrate the renaming. Of course you would never want to have the same color brown in the same object, but you might want two different shades of brown, and if that was the case, you might consider naming one like light brown and the other one dark brown, for example. You don't want to have names like brown.001 because it's going to be very difficult to understand what's what later. And not only that, this list is going to be full of materials, and eventually a lot of materials will start looking like each other. The names are very important because they'll also be carried over into Unity. I don't want to delete this brown, I want to save it, but I want to get rid of that brown. I have a couple of choices right now. I could either undo or I could clean this up manually. Of course, we all know how to undo. So what I'm going to do is clean this up manually just to kind of demonstrate what you would have to do if the undo is no longer available. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of this brown, and notice that this name is still there. I want to restore the name, so I'm just going to take the 001 out of there. Pretty simple. And now you can see that this list still has a brown 001 in it, which is kind of bizarre and a little confusing, but that's the brown that I deleted. When I renamed this one, it renamed the one that I deleted to .001. So the act of renaming this renamed that one. But this list does not forget all of the materials you create until you close Blender. I'm going to demonstrate that right now. Okay, so just keep in mind we have two browns on the list. One of them is not being used and one of them is. I'm going to save this file. So save as Blender render test, save as Blender file. I'm going to close Blender. Now this file has been reopened and you can see on the list that brown.001 has been removed. As far as I know, that's the only way to remove the unused materials from this list. So all we need to do now is assign the colors to the geometry. We can do that in edit mode. So I'm going to unselect all, use my face selection tool, and link select just the eyes like that. Choose white and click on the assign button. I'm going to unselect all and use my lasso select tool, which is control, and I'm using my left mouse button to draw a little lasso there, to lasso select just the pupil part of the eyes. Select the black material and choose assign. We'll do the same thing with the mouth. Pink, assign. It's actually pretty easy to paint like this. If this is all you need, then it's kind of nice knowing that that's really all you have to do. If you wanted to have more control over the outlines of these colored shapes, of course what you could do is come in here and either create new edges or manipulate existing ones so that you can change the shape of this color island. Something like that. I would probably go the extra mile and maybe rescale these eyes so that they don't poke through the geometry like that. So maybe something like that, and much better. I do want to point out that we are using Cycles Render, and to be able to see these colors, I have to be in Material on the viewport shading. If I go to Texture, you won't see them. If I go to Solid, you won't see them. Only in Material viewport shading. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to use seamless textures and the cube projection tool next to create very quick and dirty UVs that are perfect for prototyping. I'll see you in the next lecture.